So today, we're going to take a journey up the great tree of life. Our goal? To understand the basic blueprints that connect every single animal on Earth. And yeah, that includes us. It turns out you have a lot more in common with a jellyfish or a sponge than you probably think. Okay, let's dive right in.
All right, let me start by asking you something a little strange. What could you possibly have in common with a tapeworm? Seriously, or a sea sponge, or even a jellyfish? On the surface, it seems like absolutely nothing, right? Well, stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to see the surprising threads that tie us all together.
The answer, and it might surprise you, is that it all comes down to just a handful of fundamental body plans. Think of them as nature's most successful architectural blueprints. And if we can understand these plans, we unlock the secrets to the incredible diversity of animal life on our planet.
Okay, so before we jump into our grand tour of the animal kingdom, we need to get familiar with the basic tools biologists use. You can think of these as the key concepts, the architect's notes for how to build an animal.
The most important tool in our kit is the idea of a phylum. Now, don't let the fancy word fool you. A phylum is just a huge group of animals that all share the same fundamental body plan. It's like an architectural blueprint for a house. The phylum tells you if you're building a simple hut, a sprawling mansion, or a skyscraper. It's that foundational.
Now check this out. One of the first, most basic splits in these animal blueprints comes down to symmetry. On one side, you've got radial symmetry. Think of a pizza or a pie, where everything's arranged around a central point. These animals don't really have a front. On the other side is bilateral symmetry. That's us. You can draw a line right down the middle and get two mirror image halves. This creates a head end and a tail end. And believe me, that simple difference is a total game changer for how you can live and move.
All right, our journey officially begins at the very base of the animal tree, with some of the simplest designs you can possibly imagine. These are the true pioneers of what it means to be an animal. First up, phylum Porifera. You and I know them as sponges. And these guys are about as basic as an animal can get. They don't even have true tissues or organs. They're basically just a specialized colony of cells all working together, filtering food out of the water that flows through all those pores. They're so simple, in fact, that most of them are asymmetrical, meaning they don't even have a defined shape.
Okay, from sponges, we take a huge leap forward with phylum Cnidaria. We're talking about jellyfish, sea anemones, and corals. They have that radial symmetry we talked about, and they're organized at the tissue level, a big step up. And they have an evolutionary killer app, specialized stinging cells called cnidocytes. This is their secret weapon for capturing prey, a truly incredible innovation.
Now, a close cousin to the Cnidaria are the Ctenophora, or the comb jellies. They also have radial symmetry, but instead of stinging cells, they get around using these 8 beautiful, shimmering rows of cilia that beat like tiny oars. And if that wasn't cool enough, many of them are bioluminescent, putting on these amazing light shows in the dark ocean depth.
Okay, brace yourselves, because we are at a major turning point in animal evolution. We're about to leave that simple radial world behind and enter the world of the worms. This is where bilateral symmetry, having a distinct head and a tail, really took over and changed everything.
You know, once you have a head and a tail, the next big thing you need is, well, an inside, a protected internal space for your organs to grow. This is the body cavity, or coelom. Early on, you had animals that were acolumate, totally solid, no cavity. Then came the pseudocolumate, which had a sort of false cavity. And finally, you get the columate, with a true, fully lined body cavity. That development right there opened the door for all kinds of incredible complexity.
So, who were the first pioneers of this new bilateral world? That would be the Platyhelminthes, or flatworms. And yes, this is the group that includes the tapeworm we mentioned at the very beginning. So they have a head, a tail, and they're triple-blastic, which means they develop from 3 tissue layers, a super important feature. But just like their name says, they're flat. They're totally solid on the inside. They are acoelomate with no body cavity.
Next up on our evolutionary ladder are the Nematoda, the roundworms. They took that next big step and developed a pseudocoelom, that false body cavity. This gave them more room for their internal organs and a more efficient gut. These guys are everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere, from the soil under your feet to, well, sometimes living inside other animals.
And this is where that whole worm revolution really hits its peak. Phylum Annelida, the segmented worms, like earthworms and leeches. They have it all. A true coelom providing plenty of internal space, and another game-changing innovation, segmentation.
By dividing the body up into all these repeating segments, they could move with way more power and precision. So once nature had these successful worm blueprints down, evolution really started to get creative. The next few phyla we're going to look at took these basic plans and just ran with them, conquering every habitat on Earth and becoming the undisputed masters of diversity.
And here they are, the undisputed champions of the animal kingdom, phylum Arthropoda. We're talking insects, spiders, scorpions, crabs, lobsters, the list goes on and on. They are by far the largest phylum on the planet, and their wild success comes down to two killer features: a tough protective exoskeleton that's like a suit of armor, and those amazing jointed appendages that can be modified into legs, antennae, wings, claws, you name it.
And you can't talk about diversity without talking about the incredible phylum Mollusca. Their basic plan is actually pretty simple: a soft body, a muscular foot to get around, and a special tissue called a mantle that often creates a shell. But get this, from that one simple plan, you get everything from a slow-moving garden snail to a super-fast, terrifyingly intelligent octopus. That is just amazing versatility.
Okay, now for a really strange evolutionary twist. Meet phylum Echinodermata, the starfish, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers. So here's the weird part. Their ancient ancestors were bilateral, just like us. But somewhere along the way, the adults evolved to go back to a form of radial symmetry, usually in 5 parts. They also developed something totally unique, a water vascular system that works like hydraulics to move their little tube feet. They are bizarre, fascinating, and you'll only find them in the ocean.
Okay, we've seen sponges, we've seen worms, and we've seen some absolute superstars of diversity. For this last leg of our journey, let's trace the branch on the tree of life that leads, well, straight to us.
Check out the Hemichordata, or acorn worms. Now, this is a pretty small phylum of marine worms, and they might not look like much, but they are a hugely important evolutionary link. And why is that? Because they share a special feature with our own group, pharyngeal gill slits. These are little openings in the throat region, and they are a critical signpost that points the way forward to our own phylum.
And that brings us home. Our final stop on this journey, phylum Chordata. This is our group. This phylum includes every animal with a backbone, all the fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and of course, mammals, including us. Together, we've managed to make a home in pretty much every environment on the entire planet.
So what actually makes a chordate a chordate? It really boils down to these 3 key features that all of us have at some point in our development. First, a notochord, which is a flexible rod for support. In humans, it becomes the discs between our vertebrae. Second, a dorsal hollow nerve cord. That's what becomes our brain and spinal cord. And third, those pharyngeal gill slits we saw in the acorn worms. In us, they develop into parts of our jaw and inner ear. This is our fundamental blueprint.
So there you have it. From a simple sponge all the way to the complexity of a human being, the entire animal kingdom is built on just a handful of these brilliant evolutionary blueprints. These 11 phyla represent the core architectural plans that have shaped life on Earth for hundreds of millions of years. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's next? What will be the next great innovation in the design of life?